High school has helped me get life back on track and put my future into perspective. As a freshman, I had no interest in my education, but thanks to high school, I got my head right and realized how important my high school diploma is. When I began high school in Wisconsin, I had already gone through a lot of stuff, crazy family stuff, that I hope no other kids ever have to deal with, but sometimes it's just a part of life. These problems were still very much a part of my life when I started attending Sheboygan South High School. My mind definitely was not focused on school. In the first 2 quarters, I had acquired over 60 absences. I would ditch school to go hang out with older kids, many of which were high school dropouts, and do things to ease my mind and help me forget. I probably seemed fine to everybody else, but I had a lot going on in my head, much like the guy in A Perfect Day for a Banana Fish. Then one day it all caught up to me. I had left my house on Friday and didn't go home or call my mom the whole weekend. Then when Monday came, my mom called the police on me as a runaway. That was probably the best thing she could have done for me. The cop brought me to school in handcuffs and walked me into the main office, still with handcuffs on. I remember being really embarrassed. The cop gave me a ticket for truancy and assigned me a social worker. Even with all this happening, I would still ditch school. Then I ended up in a place called shelter care, kind of like a halfway house for kids, because I got caught up for underage drinking. Then my social worker gave me an ultimatum: either stay in Wisconsin and live with a foster family, or move to Illinois and stay with my dad. I've lived with my dad ever since. Joliet West helped get me back on track with their stricter rules. The first time I ditched, I got that call slip to my dean and I got ISS. My old school wouldn't do anything but call home. After freshman year was finished, my dad saw my GPA and let me hear about how bad I was messing up the whole summer. I had the whole summer to reflect on how many problems I was causing for myself, and that helped to change my attitude towards school. Ever since freshman year ended, I got back on track with school, but it seems like as each year I got less and less social. But I was focusing more on school, and my grades reflected that. I started to put my future into perspective and started to try and decide what I wanted out of life. I decided that no matter what I do, I wanted to be rich. I made up my mind that I wanted to be an accountant because they make good money and I'm good with numbers. Then senior year, I took accounting class, and I'm so glad I did. Accounting was the most boring and tedious thing I have ever done. That's when I realized being rich doesn't mean being happy. Much like Gatsby in The Great Gatsby, he had plenty of money, but as he was throwing his parties, he would still stand by himself and be unhappy because he didn't have what he truly wanted out of life, and that was a family. As the end of my high school career is coming to an end, I've been thinking about what I'm going to do with my life. I know I'm going to go to college, but I have no way to pay for it, and I don't want to take student loans and start my life out in debt. That's when I decided I'll go to the Army. My only motivation for going there is to get my college paid for. Reading The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien really made me second guess going to the military. In his book, he talks about how if any war story you hear is uplifting or moral, it's not true. I think he has done the best to try and make you get a feel for what being in a war is like. Because of this, I'm going to wait and not sign up for the service right away because of the situation in Ukraine. I want to see what is going to happen with all that first. My mentality has changed so much from freshman year, and I have to give most of the credit to high school. If I hadn't been forced to move to Joliet and stayed in Wisconsin, I probably would have dropped out and been on the path to jail or already in it. Now I'm a senior, and I'm about to graduate in less than a week.